everyone recognizes the disconnect. It's not like people literally have blinders on. They
Yeah.
sense like couples are so in tune with each other. The slightest tone, the slightest like avoiding, eye gazing, like you can tell when you're connected and when you're not immediately. But it is your self-awareness, which is one of the keys to like healing this, is being aware of your dance moves. You know that when we have conflict or when we're disconnected, I want to hash it out right away, but he needs some time.
To Journey to Joy Live, a podcast to promote wellness, resilience, and inspire joy. Be empowered to balance your mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social health while providing mental health awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental illness in the Black community. I'm your host, Dr. NJoy, and I'm here to help you transform life's challenges into opportunities for joy. Let's begin the journey together. Hello, we're in episode 109. We're not roommates. How to rekindle connection when you feel emotionally distant. And I'm here with special guest, Dr. Chavonne. She is a life and marriage coach. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, I think we found each other on LinkedIn, which is where I find most of my guests. The other half the time I find them on Instagram.
Well, all of the places are the places to be, but yeah.
I know, right? Well, tell us more about you and what you do.
Yeah, so happy to be here, Dr. Chavonne. I am life and marriage coach, and one of the things I like to lead with is I am my first, my best, and my worst client. So interestingly enough, right? It's like you start a business from a place of expertise, especially those with a lot of education behind our lives. And then you have the opportunity to learn for real. And I think that is what has happened to me. I started this business 10 plus years ago. At that time, it was like, I'm going to use everything I've learned about behavior change and coaching and mindset, and I'm going to teach the people, right? And it was like, my husband and I were extremely happy at the time. I actually built my business on maternity leave. And then we have real life, right? The thing that happens when you have a marriage that is multiple years, multiple decades, all of the things. We've been together for almost 20 years.
Whoa, that's great.
For 14. So we have a long lot of experiences. And I will say that in those experiences, we got the opportunity to practice everything that I knew, right? And
and he was willing too.
Seasons, right? And for anyone watching this show that has a marriage, there are seasons in it, right? It is not just like straight road or up and up and up. It's like all of the roller coaster. And I think, though, what I'll say in reflecting back and really answering this question of what I do, I think the theme so much throughout everything that I teach and how I work with my clients is I am a real wife with a real marriage and a real life too. And everything that I teach has come from a deep sense of knowing and seeing, and not only reading and of course evidence-based strategies, but then there's like real life. And I was one of those wives, as my marriage went through its own iterations and struggles, I would be reading this stuff and I'm like, yeah, but what about in this situation? And then how do you actually do that? And so one of the gifts I'm so grateful for God for is I am a really process person. It's my research background of like, if you ask me how to do something, my brain thinks in steps very quickly, very strategically. I'm going to be like, okay, well, first you have to do this, second you have to do this. And it comes from knowledge, but also just the lived experience. So at the end of the day, what do? I work with both couples and individual women to really improve the quality of their marriage. When I think about what I am about helping people create healthy, happy marriages that last. And for many times, the couples that I work with, when they're both coming together wanting to do this work, the focus is creating that lasting and healthy and happy.
Yes, think forever. Don't say the D
But I
word.
also have a spot because, again, through the iterations and through the seasons, I think it's also important that I be able to offer my expertise and support people who are either doing this alone. I have a lot of women who have a partner who maybe isn't interested in doing this or won't do
Okay.
this for whatever reasons, and also
And
women
they
who
come by themselves.
and they come by themselves, and
Okay.
they're trying to figure out, like, if I clean up my side of the street, right? Because we
It's a
all have a
two-way
side of the street.
streets. Oh,
Will it help this marriage? Will this marriage rise up,
yeah.
start meeting some of my needs, or do I need to really think about, some type of transition in some way? So I serve it all, I love it all, and it's really a blessing to be able to help people in this area of their lives because it's not a place where we have a lot of space and safety to talk about
Yeah.
openly, and, I really consider it sacred work, so, yeah.
For sure, because you gotta be able to trust who to talk to because, of course, a lot of women like to vent with friends, and if you vent to the wrong friend, especially if it's a single friend, they're gonna be like, "Oh, no, you need to leave him," and, it's like, "Should I really
Yeah.
be listening to
Yep.
you? You're
Yes.
not in a relationship, you're not even you left that person," that kinda thing,
Yes.
and it's really it's the roller coaster, but it's hard work, and I've mentioned that on the other relationship, podcast episodes in the past, and it takes, like, I'm using kinda scripture at this point, dying to self, like, really selfless work.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It does.
So,
And I think
yeah.
people don't realize that. Like,
Mhm.
I have a concept, it's called your level 10 self. And it's really about intentionally deciding who you wanna be instead of just
Yes.
operating on
Yeah.
autopilot from what you learned, what you picked up
Mhm.
from your family of origin or other
Mhm.
experiences you've had in life. But it requires a parts of you die. And I think sometimes we tend to put
Yeah.
ourselves in boxes, and I've had a lot of clients come to me and say, "Well, I'm not the type of person to do that." I'm like, "Okay, well, this is what your marriage requires. You either change
Yeah.
it or you stay stuck experiencing the same things, and so, doesn't mean we have to, snap our fingers and you get it overnight, but we do wanna work
Mhm.
towards making those shifts, creating those transformations in you so that your marriage can thrive.
For sure, for sure. And, like, with that dying to self, it comes with humility, patience, and just not being offended so quickly, and I have
Yeah.
to add to that, not feeling disrespected so quickly. And if you are humble, I feel like you can't feel disrespected and humble at the same time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I think there is a lot like, marriage and the level of offense that you feel will vary depending on a lot
Mhm,
of different factors, but I do think there are some things that we have a tendency to make up stories about, and
mhm.
a lot of times when I'm talking with clients and understanding situations, I can pull out how they are wounding their own selves
Oof,
by what they
oof.
actually the story they've concocted, which is not
Yeah.
in fact what their partner intended or what was going on.
Mhm. Assuming assumptions
I
can
do
kill a
think
marriage.
yeah, when I think of humility, it's really being willing to ask the question, "What if I'm wrong here?
Mhm.
What if the way that I'm seeing things is not actually what's happening?" And when you're willing to be wrong and to say that, like, "What if I looked at this in a completely different way?" That is a humbling process. It's a
Oh,
vulnerable
yeah.
process because you risk giving up the story, and a lot of times the story of offense that we take on is
Mhm.
self-protective, right? We don't even
Yeah.
realize, but we're trying to protect some part of ourselves by being offended and kinda being the victim of our partner when
Mhm.
really there's so much empowerment available to you
That
by holding
pride that pride gets in the way, especially women,
yeah.
especially us Black women.
And we I love my Black women and, right? Just and. I'm one, and I am one of them, so in all the ways. So yes, 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 yes.
Alright. Well, we're really I mean, sounds like we can go on and on just talking about how marriages work in general, but of course the topic I had this topic in my Rolodex when I met you, and I'm just like, "Ooh, I
Mhm.
wanna talk about this," when we feel like we're just roommates, just going through the flow, co-parenting, you might talk about bills. You say, "Oh, I'll go pick up that kid," but there's no emotional connection. And
Mhm.
so, unfortunately, every marriage has experienced that. I've been married 6 years. I feel like the majority of the time we have some really good emotional connection, and that's
Mhm.
really my made up rule is that at least we're doing 80% well, right? And if the
Yeah.
20% of the time things aren't going so well, it's like, that's just marriage. And definitely, I've experienced that where it felt like, "Are we just roommates?" But it doesn't last long. I feel like if it's lasting like weeks, woo, couples therapy time. But anyhow, how often are you seeing couples dealing with
Yeah.
that
Well, by
roommate
the time
phase?
they come to me, right,
Yeah.
it is the norm, right? It is the
Uh-huh.
norm or they're
Uh-huh.
past the roommate phase and they've entered into the toxic high conflict phase, right? And so
Mm.
I love hearing you say, like, if it's lasting a couple of weeks, like, we need to pay attention to it. And
Mm-mm.
I think the
Mm-mm. That's too
biggest
long.
mistake couples make is waiting so long, which is also the underlying sort of operating system that leads to the roommate stance and dynamic in the first
Yeah.
place. It's apathy, right? With marriage, we have this belief like, well, the marriage is always going to be there. I don't need to act now. There's no sense of urgency. I don't need to
True.
do anything about it.
True.
We'll
True.
just it'll just fix itself or like we're just
Yeah.
through a phase or circumstances are this way now, but once these circumstances change, things will change. There's so many limiting beliefs and misguided, thoughts that people have about it that cause them to delay. And so if you're asking me how often do I see couples struggling with this? It's like at some level, probably all the couples that I work with have had
Yeah.
prolonged states of
Oh.
connection, and there are ways people cope with that. Some people cope with it by just shutting down and adapting to that new system and just
Mhm.
not even trying. They're just like, "Okay, well, this is how
Wow.
it's gonna
Something's
be."
gotta kick
They
in.
focus on other priorities, work, raising the kids, just keeping the status quo, keeping the peace. I hear that a lot. And then
Mhm.
there are others who are so frustrated by the disconnection. And then they're protesting and they're angry and they're having a lot of conflict because they're
Yeah.
overwhelming and they're reacting to the situation. So it's both ends of the spectrum, how people navigate it, the ways that they cope with it,
Mhm.
but it's happening a lot, and there are many, many couples that are in these prolonged periods of the roommate dynamic.
I just can't imagine that because our roommate phase will last 2 to 3 days max, and I am just like, it kills me. I can't
Yeah,
do it. And,
yeah.
you have to know your spouse, know yourself, because like,
Mhm.
we argue in different ways. Me, I
Yes.
wanna hash it out right then and there. Let's just get this all laid out so we can, forgive each other and go on. But for him, he needs time. He doesn't wanna say the wrong thing, so I have to give him that time. He'll pull off the silent treatment, that kinda thing. But,
Mhm,
if enough time goes by, then I'm able to just get rid of my feeling that I'm disrespected or get
mhm.
rid of that offense and just say, "You know what? What do you need, honey?" And, th
Yeah,
that actually breaks it every time. But
yes,
sometimes I get sick of being that person that's like,
yes.
"Okay, what do you need?" and lay aside myself. But that's what works every time.
And what I can say, like, just hearing you say that though, it's so clear that you have a high level of emotional safety in your
Mm,
relationship, right? And that is the thing that people are missing where everyone recognizes the disconnect. It's not like people literally have blinders on. They
yeah.
sense like couples are so in tune with each other. The slightest
I
tone, the
know.
slightest, like, avoiding, eye gazing, like, you can tell when you're connected and when you're not immediately. But it is your self-awareness, which is one of the keys to, like, healing this, is being aware of your dance moves. You know that
Uh-huh.
when we have conflict or when we're disconnected, I wanna hash it out right away, but he needs some time to reflect and process.
Mhm.
You're probably the external processor, he's probably the internal processor. I would say in 99.9% of the couples that I ever work with, there is always one in either category,
Right? I
and
guess that's good.
it is good, but also when you don't understand it and you don't respect it, you
Yeah.
stay in that stalemate longer,
Mhm.
where it's like,
Mhm.
you have, like, hints of the, like, "Well, why does it
Stalemate,
always
yeah.
have to be me?" But the couples that, come to me, it's been asking that same question for years. And
Mhm.
once you ask it and you ruminate it on it, and then that resentment starts to build up, the desire to be humble and to say, "What do you need to move forward from this? How can we repair?" Which is exactly what you're doing. The desire to do that is minimal, and they stay
Mhm.
stuck, and then other things
You stay
pile
stuck.
on, and then you haven't addressed the first issue that led to the disconnection, and then
Yeah.
5 other ones,
Yeah,
and
exactly. It
that's how
builds up more issues, and you don't
Yes,
even remember how you got in this in the first place.
exactly.
And people play games, right? It's like,
Yes,
"Oh, well, you're making me feel this way. You said that thing to hurt me, so let me say this thing to hurt you, and let me do
yes,
this thing to make
yes,
you feel bad." And it's kinda
yes.
like, "Are we on the same team or not?"
Right. But then also it's like, are we adults or not? Right? Like, I there are so many times where I'm like, listen, petty is pointless. I remember
It
I
is.
coined that phrase with a client and he was like, I really get it. Cause he was able to see like, I'm being so petty here. And it's a learned behavior,
Mm.
right? So I actually talk about so many things that we just pick up from the way we were treated or the way we saw other people operate that we internalize unconsciously. We never challenge it. We never consider, like, is this actually healthy? Should I be being this way and doing things this way? Or does it need some adjustment? And there
Yeah.
are so many adolescent behaviors or toddler like behaviors happening in marriage. And we call it emotional childhood, right? That's my like
Yeah.
very diplomatic and mature way of calling out, "You're being a child." And we give ourselves passes. When our feelings are hurt, we revert back to that inner child, and I don't
Yeah, our
know
feelings are hurt. The trauma, I talked about we had an episode Married to Trauma, so when that
Yes.
trauma comes
The
up
trauma comes
yeah.
out and whatever age, like, some people can pinpoint it. "Oh, yeah, that's my 8-year-old self. That's my
Mhm.
six-year-old self. That's my 12-year-old self."
Good start.
And how they're responding really reflects that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I feel like we answered this question, but I still wanna ask it just in case there's more to it. Now, emotional distancing. Now, is it a normal part of long-term relationships? I think we realize, yeah, it's a normal part, but is it a red flag, and should it be addressed right away?
So, it becomes a red flag when you look at how you handle it, right?
Yeah,
So, when there is an imbalance or when there is just this resistance to do anything about it,
yeah.
that's when it's a red flag. The challenge, though, is usually, again, in most of the couples that I work with, there's one person who wants to address it and the other person who wants to sweep it under the rug.
Or the other person doesn't even realize it. Ooh.
Or that doesn't even realize it, right? And so that's actually the red flag. It's less about the distance because marriage is connecting and disconnecting, connecting and disconnecting.
Yeah.
It is the process or lack of process that you use to bring yourselves back together. And when that's not happening, that's the red flag.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you have to be sure to target that, recognize it, and try to fix it when you can.
Yeah, as soon
That's
as
for
you can.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a lot of times resentment might be kinda under that, roommate phase and lack of emotional connection. We got many people who feel like they're doing anything, everything at all times, momming, working, managing the house. So how can they reconnect with their spouse when resentment is quietly building and boiling?
Quietly and not so quietly, right?
Right.
So here's how I love to address resentment. You've got to start there first. Part of
Yeah.
what snowballs resentment is you not being able to see the role that you play in the results that you're getting. And I'm speaking to myself because I've gone through this process as well. I'm speaking to
Mhm.
all of my clients,
Mhm.
there's all the people.
Mhm.
And the first thing with resentment is you have to look at, okay, these are the situations, these are the circumstances that are not working for me.
Yeah.
What is the role that I play in that? And so when it comes to juggling all of the things, the mommying, the housekeeping, the homemaking, the working, the all the things,
Yeah.
the first thing you have to look at is, am I asking for the help that I need?
Right.
Am I even asking for the help that I need? Because some of us, type A women, we like things done our way, and we want
Uh-huh.
things done on our timeline in exactly
Yeah.
as prescribed situation. And
Yes.
so we might have a partner who's willing to partner with us,
But they're
but
used to you doing it.
weed him out, right? We weed him out. And I remember this with our newborn. Like my husband was giving her a bath and I was in there like, no, you gotta do this and you gotta do it this way. And this is how I do it. And he was like, listen,
I'm here.
my way is okay.
No, that's
And I was
good.
like, you know what? It is.
That's really
And
good he spoke
sometimes,
up.
even when our partners are giving us help, we don't receive it as help because we're in there micromanaging the process. So you have to look at, am I doing
That's really good.
other
We're
people?
thinking of, like, what they're doing wrong.
Yes, yes. The other piece is sometimes we also have to look at if I ask my partner to step in and partner with me, right? I don't even
Mhm.
like to call it like asking for help from your partner, but
Yeah.
that's what we know it as, right?
Mhm.
You have to also look at, are you having a reaction to their lack of enthusiasm? Right? So
Mm.
a lot of times
Mm.
people will tell me, well, like, "Well, I asked my partner, but he's always huffing and puffing about it, and he's, like, not happy to do it." I'm like, "That's okay. He doesn't
He's
have
doing it.
to be happy about doing it." How many
Mm.
times do all of us in the parenting, in the
True.
professional living, in the, keeping our home tidy, how many times are we doing things we don't actually want to do, but they use that as an excuse
To
not to
not ask. Feel
and
like you're
I'm like
bothering them.
yeah, I'm like, "It's okay that he's not loving this and turning cartwheels. Is he doing it? Let that be enough and receive the help and move on." And then there are those times when it's like maybe you have asked your partner and they have said no. And I think a
Yes.
lot of times we look for I can only ask this person for this help. And one of the first things I do with clients that are in this situation is we've got to expand the network and the hands available to help. A lot
Yeah.
of times when I'm working with clients that have young children, I'm like, we need to get 2 to 3 trusted adults or babysitters
For
because
sure. We need a
needing
village, just the
needing
2 of
your
y'all?
partner exactly, needing your partner to be the one to be there at this exact time or to pitch in this exact way, and having no other options is a
Mhm.
recipe for you feeling helpless and disempowered, which is what leads to the resentment. But
You
when
don't
you
wanna
feel
resent
like,
him.
"Okay, I got this figured out," like, yes, would I prefer that my partner be able to accommodate and meet this need? Yes, but I'm not without help. And when you're not without help, then there's really less to be resentful about because the
For
things are getting
sure.
done and it's not all falling on you.
You spread out that load, you're feeling less resentful towards them, and then also you have time to work on the marriage because if the kids are over there somewhere else, you guys can go date each other.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so
100%.
that definitely well, with that, so you mentioned that if the person says no, so then it's kinda like a communication issue there, and, we often hear, "Communicate more, communicate, communicate. Tell them what you need," that kinda thing. But what does healthy communication really look like when you feel unheard and disconnected?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple of things. I think the first thing that I always like to look at is, are we really doing the healthy communication? Because
Yeah.
there are times when I think for us as women particularly, we sometimes over communicate and we think that that's better. Right? We're over explaining. We're so clear. We're so direct. And we want to look at, is what you think is healthy communication
Yeah.
actually healthy communication? And what I really promote is this strategy of speaking from the self, right? And this is incredibly hard to do. I
Yeah.
say that because I catch myself so many times when I'm disappointed or frustrated in something.
Mhm.
The knee-jerk reaction is, "You didn't do this," or "Why
Yeah,
didn't
nagging.
very you-focused language versus,
Mhm.
"When this
I
happens,
focus.
I feel
I feel.
feeling word, and then what can we do to address it?" That's healthy communication.
Ooh, I love the addition to that. It's I know about the "I feel" statements, but what can we
Right.
do to address
What
it?
can we do to address it, right? And when you have that conversation, it's a different kind of conversation. So I always like to start there because we want to put our best foot forward and to create a win-win. I think sometimes when we have a partner that we feel it's difficult to communicate with, we develop this negative image of them. And so then we approach them in a certain way because we're already assuming they're going to be
There's that
difficult,
assumption again.
right? They're going to be
Ah,
difficult to communicate with.
yeah,
But when you
yeah.
look at like, okay, communication is really designed to create a win-win situation. How
Mhm.
do I get myself heard, but also how do I help my partner feel successful? And a
Ooh, I
lot of
love it.
times when you have a defensive partner or a partner who dismisses your feelings, it's because they are reacting to their own shame and failure.
Yeah.
And so they can't hear you when they're mired in shaming themselves and feeling like a failure.
Feeling
That's really
feeling
difficult.
like a failure.
And
That's
so
key.
you wanna set it up with, "I'm winning because I'm gonna be heard, but you're winning because you're gonna feel successful." That is healthy communication, and that is the way I really like to work with people to be heard and to get heard. Now, let's say we do all that because I know some of you are asking, like, "Yeah, I okay, right? It
Alright,
is
I done all that.
right? It is my partner." And sometimes it is. I never, ever want to paint this as, like, it's always you. Like, sometimes we really have
Yeah,
partners that, for whatever
yeah,
reason,
yeah.
are unable to hear us, to respond to us in a healthy way. The solution is what I call self-soothing, right?
Okay,
There are some times
that's
when
good.
trying to have a conversation is actually gonna be more hurtful and harmful to you than really going inside of yourself, working through your trigger, working through whatever has upset you, and creating your own soothing experience. That is gonna be the place to go. You cannot go to your partner in some instances, and a lot of times people, they don't get that because it's like, "But marriage is supposed to be this, and marriage is supposed to be that." And I'm like, "Yes, I agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
we have to also adjust and work
yeah.
in what we actually have instead of resisting it, because now you're going to try to get help and soothing for someone who's
Mhm.
actually going to leave you with the experience of having your wound with salt in it,"
Yeah,
right?
drained,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very key because and it's almost like you're looking for them for the happiness, but you can't bring your own joy or your own happiness, and when they can't make you happy, then it's kinda like you're upset and, are your expectations too high? So I really like that self-soothing because you gotta be able to find joy from within when you can't find it through your kids, your spouse, anybody else or that you
Yeah.
might encounter. So that's really key.
Mhm. It is.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. Also with communication, your tone, because you can say the best things ever, but if your tone is off, like, even if you say, "Sorry," you did not say sorry. I do not believe that.
Me feeling you're not fooling anyone, right? Like, sometimes you try to clean it up afterwards. It's like, but you made a mess.
Right, it's just that it goes back to that humility and just, that kicking that pride out. Like, do you wanna be married or do you wanna be right?
Yeah.
And it goes all the way back to that, you're always not you, but, like, a person is always, like, trying to just push and be right about a certain thing when that's not even what this is about anymore.
Mhm.
Are you hurting your spouse? Are you making sure they're feeling successful? Because
Yeah.
that's the thing too, especially with our men. Um, the podcast episode I referenced earlier, Married to Trauma, the guest said that women are inclined to have this fear of abandonment, but men are inclined to have a feeling of or fear of failure.
Yeah.
So after that, I'm like, "Well, I learned from this episode." I'm constantly thinking, "Okay, what I'm gonna say, is he gonna feel like he failed? Is there a way I can say this better?" Because
Mhm.
sometimes it could be the most neutral thing, like, "I miss you," and he feels like he failed as a husband. Not my husband, but just as an
Yes.
example.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
we definitely have to watch that. Now, how can wives reignite intimacy when their love language is emotional connection, but their spouse is just checked out?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great question. So, love language, right? I actually have a whole
I
podcast
love love
itself on
languages.
love languages because
Ooh.
times we use knowing our love language as a weapon
Mhm.
in our marriage, right?
Oh.
And so here's the beauty of having 5 love languages.
Mhm.
You get to expand your own capacity to feel love. And so I always like to start there first. When we know, like, okay, my love language is like words of affirmation or quality time or whatever the case may be. Perfect, amazing. I love it for you. Incredible. And let's also develop your receptors to receive and experience love from all the love languages. And the reason that is important is because when it comes to getting a need met in your marriage, you never want to be in starvation mode. You are in
Mm.
starvation mode, you are very reactive, you're not focused on the win-win, you're focused on your win. And
Mhm.
so we can look at, okay, this is my primary love language, but also my husband or, my partner is loving me and demonstrating love towards me in these other ways. Then you have just like, you've had your appetizer, right? Like, you're like, okay, I'm not starving. There's something here to work with.
Yeah.
Now we build the next layer, right? And so
Yeah.
it's that because your energy and how you make your bids for connection matters. And when you have a partner that's checked out, the thing that's gonna help you bridge the gap the most is being curious about why they've checked out.
Yeah.
A
Yeah. Do
lot of
they need their love tank filled?
Exactly. A lot of times we're so offended by the disconnection, we're aggressively pursuing. "Why don't you ever do this?" I'm just asking for
Making
some
it
help,
worse.
like, right? And then that triggers their failure or triggers whatever is going on within them. Maybe there's some resentment you don't even know about that they're harboring. And
Exactly.
so
You have an attitude, they don't wanna tell you what's on their mind because you got the
you're
attitude.
not gonna get it, right? You're not gonna get answers. So we have to transform your energy to just be really curious. Like,
Yeah.
"What's going on with you? This is important to me, but I also wanna hear from you. I wanna understand
Mhm.
what's going on with you. What's getting in the way for you to build this bridge with me?" Those 2 steps, I think, really represent a different way than how most people approach it, and
Mhm.
I think you'll really find some major progress just by making those switches.
Yeah, I really like the idea of kind of expanding your way to receive a love language. I mean, there's obviously at least the 5 that's talked about, most
Mhm.
popularly, and just understanding that maybe your spouse is giving you love in a different way. So I do love that part. A lot of what I speak about is understanding that just because your love language is service and gift giving, it doesn't mean that you doing service and gift giving is gonna fill your spouse's love tank. 'Cause, sometimes you might be like, "But I do all these things for him. He doesn't appreciate it." Well, what is his love language? "Oh, it's physical touch and words of affirmation." Well, do you give that? Oh.
I'm
It's
not
like
that
you
type
have
of person. That's usually the ex I'm not that
correct.
type of person.
Well, if you want them to do service and give gifting for you, you have to turn into that person because that's
Yeah,
who you're married to.
yeah, yep, yep. It's
Yeah.
really about I think at the end of the day, I take my clients through this exercise, you have to create the vision of what you're wanting, right? What you are wanting in the marriage, and then you have to start asking yourself the question, "Who do I need to be to create that?"
Ah.
Am I
Hmm.
growing and evolving? Am I doing the
Mm.
actions that are required? What is a person in a
Yeah.
marriage that's deeply connected, what do they do? How do they show up? How do they walk into a room? How do they talk with their partner? How do they think about their partner when they're alone with their own thoughts? Because a lot
Yeah.
of disconnection starts
Yeah.
first with the story you are telling yourself about
Oh.
the person.
Ooh, the story that you're telling yourself about this other person. Yeah, because when it starts here, it starts brewing and it can come out here. So
It
you're
starts
right, you
brewing
have to watch what you
fast.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least get it out on paper or something.
Yes.
Ball it up,
Get it out on
right.
paper and then clean it up, right? Because ignoring it doesn't make it go away. So you
Yeah.
do have to get it out and you have to question it and you have to reframe it and you have to
Mhm,
challenge it and really
mhm.
clean it up. Yeah.
All therapeutic things, that's for
All
sure.
big things. Yeah.
Now for those who are listening, what's the small thing that a woman could do this week to spark emotional closeness, even if her spouse isn't initiating? But
Yeah.
we gonna tell her to do it because the only person she can control is her.
The only person she can control is her. So there's so many different things. I think it depends on where you are. For the woman who is really like kind of down in a lot of resentment, like you have a lot of harsh, angry, frustrated feelings towards your partner. I think honestly, the first thing I love asking myself the question when I'm really hurting, like, what's the matter? What's the matter? Because you
Love
need
it.
some tenderness to soften yourself. And you are the best person to answer that and to really understand yourself.
Mhm.
Then the next phase, if you're not like as mired in that, but you're just like, I would say you really want to start focusing on what you appreciate about this person daily. Again, connection starts with your internal state, your internal story before you ever say a word to your partner.
Mhm.
Like, you want to really be anchored into what am I appreciating about this person? What do I love about having them in my life? And let me, again, for us married, but very independent Black women, right? Like, we can really quickly go down the road of like, he doesn't add anything to my life. Why do I need him?
Ooh.
Really frustrated and really angry and
Oh.
really feeling overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Go to that question so quickly, but I promise you, when
Yeah.
you really pause to answer that question, you will find something to appreciate. And once your heart is more open to that softness, to that this is a valuable person in my life. I'm not as upset as I really, am being. I'm hurt and I'm hurt, but also there's some really good things here. There's some really good things here that I can appreciate. And so once you're more warmed up, the way you take whatever action, whether that is sending a text message, hey, I hope you have a good day today, whether that is
Yeah.
actually making eye contact and
For
smiling
sure.
when you greet each other at the end of the day, whether that is actually having some physical touch, a hug, sitting on the couch next to each other instead on opposite ends. There's so
Yeah.
small things that signal I'm open. I'm open to you because
Mhm.
he's wanting that too. And I think sometimes we forget that. But
Sometimes that silence or that checking out is kinda
yeah,
like that
but
signal
it's
of, like,
protective because he's hurt
yeah.
too, right? It's
Mhm.
not
Something hurt.
yeah, it's protective. It's just we cope with that distance differently, and there's a lot of misunderstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. This is good, and of course, I should have started with a disclaimer that, of course, we're not talking about domestic violence, someone physically abusing you, or rape or anything like that.
No.
Obviously, we're talking about the day to day, but also, some serious arguments and things like that, that marriages go through, where
Mhm.
you can work on yourself and you working on your part can actually help save a marriage. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
we're talking about.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, so where can people find you? You mentioned that you see couples. You mentioned you see wives who may come because their spouse doesn't want to come, and I imagine wives can come to you, whether or not the spouse wants to, but just for their own
Yes,
therapy
for
to
their
learn how to
own
be the wife
yes,
part.
for their
Yeah,
own betterment of just, like, when I'm feeling better, my relationships are better. Yeah,
correct. See,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So people can find me right on that website. So on my website, I have so many things. I have resources. I have a link directly to my podcast. So if you're a podcast listener, just hop on over. My podcast is called All Things Marriage with Dr. Chavonne. Lots of content there. I have also on my website a free masterclass. Um,
Nice.
other resources that you can grab. And then if you are really at a place where you're looking for some professional help and want some support navigating some of the things happening in your marriage, you can find out how you can work with me. I have one on one programs, I have private coaching, group coaching, a lot of different ways that we can connect and you can get some support.
Now, is it just coaching or therapy as well that you
It is
do?
coaching. Yeah, it
Okay,
is.
gotcha,
Yeah.
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 So out of pocket, coaching isn't insurance, right?
Correct. This
I
is
wanna
it.
make sure
The out of
people
pocket,
know.
it is very much. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and you are on your handles are also Dr. Siobhan, so we can find you there.
Instagram,
But
yes.
you're not done just yet. Tell, me about your personal journey to joy.
Ooh, this is such a beautiful question. My personal journey to joy has really involved really uncovering what matters the most and deciding to be present to it. So, the interesting thing for
Mm.
me as an entrepreneur, I mentioned I started my business on maternity leave, and
Yeah, me
happened
too, we have that in common, by the way.
I love it, right? What happened though is I had soared through my career, right? Got all the degrees, got the job that I wanted, then got promoted. And so my identity at that time was very achievement oriented. Like, what's the next milestone in life to bring me joy? And when I started my business, I was still in that trajectory. And so, yes, I'm home with a newborn, but also I'm like, I've got
Yeah.
to feed my ambition. I've got to feed my desire to achieve the next professional milestone. And there was a time where I realized that that wasn't what brought me joy. That really what brought me joy was being present with my
Mhm.
family. And the way that I like to think
Ah,
about it is when I'm 99 and I have my last day on
yep.
this earth, what matters the most?
It's always
And how
family.
do I live my life now plugging into that, being present into that,
Mhm.
pouring so much gratitude into those moments?
Ooh, I
That's
love it.
what brings me joy.
Being present. Yeah, because a lot of
Yes.
times we caught up inside our head. That's not being present with what's going
Not
on
being present,
around
not
us.
being present. Yeah,
That's very
and that is
important.
my journey to joy where it's like,
Yeah.
yes, I love my work, don't get me wrong, I give my clients my
Yeah, of
best,
course.
my heart is in it, but also my family, right? My
For sure.
family, the people that I love are by far my source of joy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on Journey to Joy Live. And don't forget, y'all, we've been talking a lot about being a wife. And so don't forget that I have the Inspired Joy for the Wife Mom Boss, balancing it all without losing yourself on my website for $17.49. And you can get the Joy bundle that includes the Wife Mom Boss book and the Enjoyno. Let's see, of course, I have it here. And in reach. So this is the Wife Mom Boss book and the Enjoyno. It is a journal that helps you balance your mental, physical, financial, social, aspirational health. And that is all on my website. So I really appreciate you for coming out, Dr. Chavonne. And thank you, MK Beauty Secrets. She was on the podcast 2 weeks ago. We were talking about
Awesome.
makeup and mental health. So she on here making a lot of comments. Appreciate you, girl. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Siobhan. Don't go anywhere. I want to talk to you after the outro. Appreciate
Yes.
you. This has been an NJoy Live production. If you're in a crisis, don't hesitate. Call, text, or chat 988 for immediate support. Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional treatment. If you're looking for therapy or medication management through NJoy Life, visit www.drnjoylife.com to request a consultation. I'm licensed in 12 states. I accept Aetna in Georgia, Florida, and Virginia. Be sure to grab your copy of the Enjoyno to help you on your wellness journey. Also check out Inspired Joy for the Wife Mom Boss to help you balance it all without losing yourself. Better yet, get the full Joy bundle for just $45. Remember, Journey to Joy Live is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, may you continue to transform stress into joy.